In 1993, God gave me an extraordinary night vision. In it, the time was late, about midnight. I was with a friend in a humble old Volkswagen Beetle. It was like the one I used to have in 1970. In reality, the friend was not anyone I knew at the time. We were headed east down a lonely stretch of country road. It was an ink-black night. No light was visible anywhere except the headlights of the car. The moon was not shining. Not even a star was visible. We had just been remarking on how dark the night seemed, when suddenly, in the distant sky, there appeared a golden glow about 10 o'clock high. As we watched, the brilliance of the light intensified more and more as it drew nearer, and the clouds began to boil around and through the light, as if a tempest was brewing in the heavens. It seemed very unusual because there was no sound, no lightning, and no thunder. Suddenly, bursting through the center of those radiant, turbulent clouds, appeared a team of mighty horses and a chariot very much like the type we've all seen in the movies depicting the days of the Roman gladiators. This team came charging toward us at full-out gallop, faster than any horses I had ever seen on earth. In the chariot there stood a man. He was firmly gripping the reins in his right hand, and instantly I knew this was the Lord Jesus Christ himself. With great excitement I thought, this must be the Rapture. The joy of the Lord filled our vehicle as the light spread across the night sky from east to west. This unearthly, holy light seemed to emanate from the chariot, the horses, and the man. Then, in an instant, the whole heavens were ablaze with the glory of it all. In breathless anticipation, I turned to my companion and asked, "Do you see him? Do you see Jesus?" "Yes, yes, I see him," she shouted in delight. Expecting at any moment to be elevated out of the vehicle into the air, I asked, "Do you feel light yet?" I was expecting, at any moment, for gravity to lose its grip on us. "No, I don't," she cried, perplexed and dismayed. Neither did I, nor could I understand the meaning of this great and awesome scene we were witnessing together. It became clear to me that we were both seeing the same vision, and we were both thinking it must be the rapture. As the chariot raced on toward us, I began to understand this was a vision. Jesus was revealing himself to us. Then, as I gazed in awe and amazement, I realized the radiant, billowing clouds could be seen clearly through the oncoming chariot, the horses, and the man. The figures were as if they were made of transparent glass and had the appearance of liquid molten gold. Looking at the scene was like gazing into the opening of a glass blower's furnace, but without the intense heat. Now the Lord was directly in front of us, merely a few hundred yards away, riding in the clouds, and many times bigger than life. The chariot began a sweeping turn toward the north. I could see the face of Jesus plainly now. He was smiling a smile of perfect peace. It was a peace like I'd never before experienced in my life. His gaze seemed to seep into my very soul, and without words, he said with his gaze, "Take courage, my daughter. Focus on me. There is nothing to fear." As the chariot began to turn northward, he reached out his left hand and beckoned to me in a sweeping gesture that very clearly gave me an instruction, or perhaps I should say an invitation to follow. It said without doubt, "I want you to come with me." and within my heart there was absolutely no hesitation. By the time we arrived at the place where the chariot turned, the vision went up from us and disappeared as suddenly as it had appeared. There we were, still in the little old Volkswagen, very much earthbound, and everything the same as it was. The dark night that was closing back in around us seemed like a living, breathing force that tried to overwhelm and convince us that what we had seen was merely the result of our overactive imaginations, as if Jesus and his fiery chariot and golden horses of glory had never appeared at all. My friend began to weep sorrowfully. "Oh, why did he leave us here?" she cried. But the peace I had witnessed on the face of Jesus had somehow seeped into my soul, and I comforted her by saying, "I don't understand, but I know it is okay. I know he hasn't left us." With these words, she looked at me hopefully, and with a tiny smile dried her eyes. As my vision in the night continued, I kept driving down the road where we had turned northward to follow the chariot. In no time at all, we came to the home of a believing friend. Even though it was late, the lights were ablaze throughout the house, throwing golden beams of radiance through the open blinds and spilling onto the lawn. I marveled that the light coming from the house was very like the glory of Jesus pouring across the sky. We entered through the front door. There in the living room sat a dozen people or more. I did not know any of them in real life. All of them were crying. Some were wailing. One man was wringing his hands. So we asked them if they had seen the Lord, to which they all replied that they had indeed. And also, like my friend, they had immediately thought the rapture had taken place, and they had been left behind. Then I heard someone weeping bitterly in the kitchen, so I left my friend with the admonition to comfort those in the living room while I went to see what was happening. There I spoke to another woman. I tried to comfort her with the same words I had told my friend, but she was comfortless, assured that the rapture had come and she had been left. At last I told her, "You know my mother, Clara Williams, don't you?" She nodded that she did. "Well, look, if there's anyone I know that is going in the rapture, it's her. Let me go and see what she thinks, and I'll come back and let you know." I ran out the open back door and across the front yard and was immediately at my mother's house. Even at such a late hour, all the lights were on as if to banish the darkness that wanted to take over the world around us, and once again I noted the light was spilling out onto the lawn. My mother sat at her kitchen table, crying. As I entered, I called, "Oh, Mom, did you see the Lord?" "Yes, I saw him," she cried. Tears of disappointment streamed down her sweet face. "Why didn't he take us home? Why did he leave us here?" she continued. In the background, I could hear a TV tuned into a major Christian television network. While trying to comfort my mother, I could hear it attempting to explain that the studio was being bombarded with phone calls. "We can't believe what is happening," he stammered. Obviously, he was at a loss for words. "The station is being flooded with phone calls from Christians all over America. They're all saying the same thing. They're saying they have seen the Lord. Yes, you heard me right. People from across the nation are calling us. Many wonderful Christians, some of whom we know personally. They're all saying they've had a vision of something like the coming of the Lord. Yes, this is unbelievable, but they're saying he was riding in a chariot on the clouds in a ball of fire. Folks, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what it means, but I want to encourage you, don't be afraid. The Lord hasn't left us." And immediately I woke up. It was January 7th, 1993. When I awoke, it was still dark outside. Thinking on the vision, I realized I felt absolutely no distress over it. I sat on the edge of my bed, praying and meditating, but I received no confirmation. That day I related the vision separately to my mother and again to my father. Both are ministers of the gospel, and they each felt it meant the Lord was going to reveal himself in a new and deeper way to his people.